So is Sherrone Moore ready to be the new head coach for Michigan this season? I'd say so. I'll tell you why. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. All right. Speaking of getting started, Chiron Moore is ready for this upcoming season to be the head coach of Michigan. We'll tell you why. Plus, we may have some news out there regarding the whiteout date. You Penn State fans been wanting that. Plus, our Tuesday tweets are hilarious. Stick around for the end of that. Really enjoy those as well. Now, when Jim Harbaugh left Michigan, and he took the LA Chargers job, everybody in the world knew that Michigan athletic director Ward Manuel, that his search for a new coach would be short. Chiron Moore was on the staff as the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, and had already auditioned for the role by stepping in to be the acting head coach in most of the half dozen games that Jim Harbaugh was suspended for. And they did all right. They won them all. Under Moore, in fact, the Wolverines didn't miss a beat. And Michigan's undefeated season ended with a national championship. All is good. Let's keep some continuity here. I think that was the game plan. Plus, the core of that championship team was the powerful and deep offensive line, perhaps the best in college football. That was Moore's baby, right? Yeah, Moore was the right guy at the right place at the right time. And hiring Moore would also keep a semblance of continuity in an era of the transfer portal. Plus, Michigan was planning on losing close to 20 kids to the NFL draft. Chiron Moore was the only pick. He was right there under their nose, and he was ready for the job. So let's talk about him a little bit more, because he's got some big decisions to come up here to start the season. But there are a few that may say, hey, when he got the job, he'd never been a head coach before, officially anyway. Like, Michigan is too big of a job for a first-timer, right? That's what they'd say. They'd suggest you need some head coaching experience elsewhere before becoming Michigan's head coach. And it's true that he's never been a head coach anywhere else. He was the tight end coach at Louisville and Central Michigan, and then at Michigan, as a matter of fact, before becoming Michigan's offensive line and offensive coordinator coach. But he was there the whole time in the middle of the Jim Harbaugh rebuild and reboot and their march to greatness. He was right there, front row seat, if you will. So what about those that say a Michigan man has to coach Michigan? Moore is from Derby, Kansas, played at Butler, Kansas, and at Oklahoma. Look, Jim Harbaugh, let's face it, Harbaugh was the ultimate Michigan man. He met every definition of the title. And it actually had ties to Bo Schembechler. That's basically where it starts. And it was Harbaugh that said, Moore is a Michigan man through and through, lobbied for Moore to get the job to replace him. And I thought that was really important. Because if you're not a Michigan man and you take the Michigan job, some things can happen, right? Let's talk about that. I mean, you might not have as much runway to keep things going in the right direction. Or maybe you earn some runway in case there's a slip here or there, right? Harbaugh was given plenty of time to get Michigan up and running to the next level. I mean, going into 2020, there were a lot of people that didn't want him around. And who knows what would have happened if that Buckeyes game had taken place during COVID that got canceled. Who knows? But they stuck with him, and he got it to the next level, and he won the championship. Again, Moore was with them that whole time. But if you are a coach there and you're not a Michigan man and you do slip a little bit, I mean, even the most diehard Michigan fans have to know that this upcoming 2024 season, it's going to be a bit of a step down. Now, it can't be drastic. Look, does it mean playing for a Big Ten championship and still getting into the playoffs while taking a step down. Is that still on the table? Heck yeah, it's still on the table. But come on. Michigan went undefeated last year, 15-0. Is a 14-win season okay? 13, 12, probably still making the playoffs, right? But by definition, that's a step down from 15-0. One loss, two loss, three loss team, still getting into the playoffs, still pretty good, still fighting for a Big Ten championship. Look, between the recruiting and the NIL and the transfer portals and the media and all that's going on, and then, oh, by the way, coaching games and practice, there's a lot going on for a head coach. Moore can coach. Moore can recruit. Nick Saban said Michigan's offensive line was the best coach line in all of football after he saw him up and close and personal in the Rose Bowl. Turned out to be Saban's last game. That was all Moore, right, at the offensive line. Moore has since talked to Saban, by the way. Moore's been doing a lot of talking. He's been talking to coaches, been talking to head coaches, sometimes in other sports, other coaches in other sports at Michigan. He's been picking a lot of people's brains lately and trying to get a feel for some things. He's always trying to make himself a better head coach. And plus, other coaches respect Moore. Just gave you the thoughts on Nick Saban from a moment ago. And his players respect him as well. They buy into that culture at Michigan. And the Wolverines had a relatively low number of kids transfer out during the whole coaching change thing. That's unusual. That's unusual in a good way for Michigan after losing so many to the NFL. And, there's a lot of kids that it was their turn. It was the next man up. And they were there when Harbaugh was there, and they're going to stay through Moore. That means they believe in Moore and how he'll be able to keep the culture going. And a lot of those kids that put their heart, and soul, and sweat and tears into the program, just waiting for their turn to be the next man up, their freshman year, their sophomore year, whatever. And sometimes a kid could go through all that, and then there's a coaching change. It's like, oh, I lost all my sweat equity. This new coach isn't going to know anything about me. Well, that's not the case with Chiron Moore. So a lot of kids stayed at Michigan. I don't think the cupboard is anywhere nearly as empty as some of Michigan's opponents will hope for this year. They got a pretty good team coming back. So these kids that bought in, they're going to remain. They like Moore. They want to play for him. And when you got a team that wants to play for you, that's half the battle right there. One thing I think you will see this year while watching Michigan is this. If you thought they ran the ball a lot last year, you haven't seen anything yet. Remember that Penn State game when Moore subbed in as the head coach for Harbaugh, who was suspended again? Not a single pass in the second half. Now, if you're new to Michigan or this podcast, we all know that J.J. McCarthy was a little dinged up and they were trying to hide it a little bit, so they just ran the ball. But nevertheless, I think that's what Moore wants to do. In 2024, their offensive line is still going to be really, really good and big, even though some of the faces are new. And you got Donovan Edwards coming back to take over for Blake Corum. We've got a peek at his explosiveness during the Natty against Washington. The quarterback situation still remains wide open. Now, Alex Orji or Jane Denegal, if they're taking snaps, I think they're going to run a lot more as part of the offense, much more than J.J. McCarthy ever did. Although I personally like Davis Warren myself. I think he's a better passer, and I'm anxious to see how that storyline plays out over the summer when they get into camp right before the season. But that decision remains to be seen, and it'll be Moore's first big test or big decision as a head coach when he names that starting quarterback this summer. I expect a pretty strong season out of Moore and the Wolverines this year. And as things stand right now, look, I think Ohio State and Oregon are right up there. And I think they're the clubhouse leaders going into the beginning of the season anyway. But I think then Michigan and Penn State and probably Southern Cal are right there battling for that third spot or be that third representative for the Big Ten in the expanded college football playoffs. Anyway, if you're a Michigan fan, I still think there's a lot to be excited about. Again, if you just keep the expectations maybe a half a notch lower than they were last year, I think you'll find this season very enjoyable. And I think, who knows, they may surprise some people as well as the season goes on, especially if they get that situation at quarterback ironed out. But they definitely have to do that. All right. Now, if you like what you see here, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, we always invite you to subscribe. It's just clicking of a button. There's no other information and it's free. And then you and I are in the same Big Ten club together. And we're free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. As I alluded to earlier, we may be able to figure out the Penn State whiteout game. Got a lot of scheduling information out. What's the whiteout? Next on Lockdown Big Ten, plus Tuesday tweets around the corner. If you are a small business or you're in charge of a small office and you're just the guy in charge and you got to hire people, use LinkedIn Jobs. It'll make your life so much easier. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I've had to hire people before. It's kind of a pain and it takes a lot of time and then you can't do your own job. So you got to wear a lot of hats. And LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't exactly searching for a new job, but they might be open to a perfect role if it lands in their lap. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Over 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe like we just talked about and share and follow. Share it with a friend. And like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. Don't forget to check out our website, talkbig1010.com as well. It's where all of our podcasts go in chronological order or grouped by your favorite school. In yesterday, in fact, if you missed yesterday's podcast, go check it out. Talked about super conferences. And in yesterday's Locked On podcast here on Locked On Big Ten, we discussed how the Big Ten and the ACC, they're or the SEC rather, the Big Ten and the SEC are putting the pieces together for a new super conference. It's happening. Now the Pac-12 is gone and the ACC will disappear. And I also mentioned that I think the Big 12, they think everything's fine and dandy. Like they're going to be part of this 3-conference system and that they're all good to go. We think they have their heads in the sand because they just lost their 2 most recognizable products in Texas and Oklahoma. So that pegs them down several notches. And we think they're going to share the same fate as the ACC and maybe the Pac-12. But it's just going to be the Big Ten and the SEC standing. Now, the Big 12 must have heard us talk about that. Commissioner Brett Yormark said that despite the loss of Texas and Oklahoma, his conference is more relevant now than we've ever been, quote unquote. I'm not sure how you can sell that, but that's what he's saying. I'm not sure adding the Arizona schools and Utah and Colorado puts the Big 12 on the same level as the Big 2. Let's see how popular Colorado remains when Dion eventually leaves, because you know that's happening at some point. Yormark also said last week that the Big 12 is not looking to expand, but last year he said they're open for business. Which is it? Not sure. Waiting around for ACC scraps after the good teams bolt for the Big 10 and the SEC. That's not going to make the Big 12 any better or stronger. By the way, their media days are in early July 9th. We'll see if any more of that gets discussed. We've also been talking a lot about schedules lately. We're excited about the season coming up. That's why we've got the homecoming dates we talked about and the TV schedules and the national primetime schedules, all that. Been talking about it a lot here. What about Penn State's whiteout game? It's annually one of the coolest things in all of college football. No question about it. Nighttime under the lights, everybody wearing white. The visiting team is just panicking because they can't hear. It's crazy. Which game is it going to be this season? You know, Penn State, they have their home games, Bowling Green, Kent State. I wouldn't, not going to be one of those. Illinois, UCLA, Ohio State, Washington, and Maryland. Now, Some are speculating while looking at the NBC primetime schedule, the Saturday night lineup, that it could be that Illinois game on September 28th. Now, the whiteout game is supposed to be scheduled for one of the big boys, right? Like Ohio State, Michigan, maybe Southern Cal moving forward, to kind of help with the home field advantage, help the team out a little bit, push them over the edge to get a big win. I mean, you're not going to burn that on a Bowling Green game. No offense to Bowling Green. So, NBC or no NBC, looking at the Penn State schedule, and it probably is going to be the Illinois game, September 28th, because of the nationally televised game on NBC. But looking at the Penn State schedule, I like the October 5th game against UCLA. I like that to be the whiteout. Kind of show the new Pac-12 team from the West Coast what they signed up for with the Big Ten. Blow their minds, right? That'd be fun. There's 2 dates in November. It starts to get a little late, but the Ohio State game and the Washington game are big games, and they will be November games. And Penn State will be right in the middle of the playoff push, and maybe even a Big Ten fighting for a chance to play the Big Ten championship. So that's just me. Those are the games I would pick. How about you? Love to hear from you down there. We are, right? Penn State fans, let me know what you think. A little bit of recruiting news. Sean Terry II. Ever heard of him? He's a 3-star wide receiver, class of 2025 from Ohio. Got a lot of attention from Big Ten schools. And then he went and committed to Notre Dame. That was back in February. However, he has decommitted. And perhaps everybody is back in the mix. He tweeted on Saturday that his recruitment is 100% open. Now, the Michigan State Spartans were the first one for the Big Ten to jump on him. He's a 5'10" wide receiver. They offered him back in October. But he also garnered some offers from Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Penn State, and Iowa. So there's a half a dozen Big Ten teams. Pitt was interested in him as well. And then he went and committed to Notre Dame at the time. In 13 games last year in high school, caught 9 touchdown passes, 525 yards. Okay, by itself, that's good. It's not electric, but he also rushed for 391 yards and 5 more touchdowns. He is definitely a multi-threat player. That's why everybody's interested in him. He's fast and he's small and he's quick. So he helped his school to the state finals where they lost, but he's the cousin of former NBA player O.J. Mayo. O.J. was the 3rd overall pick in the 2008 NBA draft back in the day. We'll see what happens with his recruitment. Anytime we talk about recruiting, we always like to give a shout out to LinkedIn Jobs again. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right. You guys that watch daytime TV, I've talked about them before critically. A bunch of talking heads talking over each other, ESPN, FS1, all this stuff going on. I don't watch it. Maybe you do because you like some sports on in the daytime on TV. I'm going to invite you to check out our friends at Locked On Sports Today. Make the switch. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories with all the screaming and talking over each other. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, it's Tuesday. What do? Tuesday tweets. A lot of good ones out there. By the way, follow us on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten, number 10. And you post something amusing on there. I find it. It's going on this podcast. We got that. I got some good ones. I like these. I like these a lot. It's all coming up. Locked On Big Ten. It's winner take all time at the NBA and NHL, getting down to the nitty gritty. Final round, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NBA Finals, Celtics to win it all are -210. That means $20 get you about $9.50. Mavs +175. $20 will get you a little under $36. The Stanley Cup final, that starts on Saturday. And Panthers minus 130, Oilers plus 108. And by the way, I saw that Edmonton is favored on futures for next year. Plus 900. Panthers are plus 1,000. All that on FanDuel. Check it out. Have some fun. FanDuel, of course, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, it is time for Tuesday Tweets. You know, we do a segment at the end here. Our third and final segment. It's always a feature. Top 10, Big Ten, top 10 observations over the weekend. On Mondays, Tuesdays is always Tuesday Tweets. Tomorrow, we'll have some power rankings. Got a good one for you. So all that is coming up. But right now, I'm going to put it on full screen. In case you're audio only, we'll describe as best we can what we have here on the board. We started off with Indiana's new football coach, Curt Cignetti. Happy birthday, Coach Sig. This is from at Indiana football on June 2nd. All right. Happy birthday to him. Meanwhile, look at this. If you're a Buckeyes fan, look at this closely. This is come add to the wide receiver university. This is a shout out from at JR's rankings, and a shout out to some young receivers in high school to come to Ohio State. This was a couple of years ago on the sideline. It's the shot from behind on the bench. You can see their names: Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and Chris Olave. All are in the NFL now. They were all on the team together at one point there at Ohio State, which is wide receiver U. Brian Hartline has done a wonderful job coaching and recruiting over there. So, yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool picture. I found it on Twitter and put it out there today. Here's one from at Clutch Points, former Iowa star and Indiana Fever star, Caitlin Clark, posting up the Indiana Fever. All of last year at home, they had 81,000 fans. So far in 5 games, 82,000, almost 83,000. Boy, a lot of talk over the weekend. Caitlin Clark and Kennedy Carter, who later out. Where were the Fever players, teammates, helping out with a little enforcement down there? That was I thought that was the bad part. Angel Reese cheering on the violence. Yeah, that's all everybody talked about this weekend regarding the WNBA. But Caitlin Clark still fighting her way through. All right, here's one from by Zinga. This is from Jacob Oden, freshman at Michigan. People think that we're just going to lay down because we lost 18 people to the draft. I'm like, no, we're going to be the same Michigan, same team, same culture. There you go. DB Jacob Oden, ready to go for the season, ready to play for Sherrone Moore. Here's from at Barstool, Iowa. It's just a random picture of Tiger Woods looking forlorn. And it says, realizing that college football is still 12 weeks away. I look at it like it's only 12 weeks away. Can't wait. I'm glass half full on that deal. Here's a cartoon of a Buckeye and a Wolverine together at a bar. Same thing, 182 days until the game. Go blue. And it's a Buckeye mascot saying, have you ever had one of those days? And Wolverine mascot says, not recently. Because, Michigan's beat Ohio State. Anyway, don't need to explain that. Here's at College Football Alerts. It is a post-spring college football top 25 rankings from USA Today. Georgia #1, Ohio State #2. I think that's how it's going to go. I think you can flip those. You can put Ohio State 1, Georgia 2. I think they're going to be back and forth on most everybody's preseason polls. Longhorns at 3. Oregon, that's a Big Ten team now. 4th, Notre Dame 5. Elsewhere, Penn State rounding out the top 10. You've got Michigan at number 14, which, look, is respectable. But that looks weird, right? You used to seeing Michigan a lot higher the past couple of years. But I told you, they could take a step back and still be really, really good. Southern Cal, all right, they're in there at 17th. Iowa at 18th. And then Nebraska, rounding out the top 25. I keep telling you, Nebraska, that's the team to keep an eye on. They're going to be fun. I'm starting to hear and see some other pundits come around and say that. I don't want them taking credit for it, but I was all over Nebraska a long time ago. Anyway, Here's from at Jeff Rabjohns. It's an IU post. 5-star quarterback Julian Lewis on his Indiana visit. Juju Lewis. 5-star quarterbacks usually don't visit Indiana, but he's got a relationship with the staff and Kurt Cignetti, so he's looking serious. That'd be a nice get. That'd be a huge get for Indiana to get a 5-star quarterback. Here we go at Barstool Husker. And it's with the Huskers with their baseball season, which came to an end this weekend. A 40-win season, a Big Ten tournament championship, Big Ten pitcher of the year. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but a season with a lot of good and a lot to build on. The boys fought to the very end. Yes, congratulations to them. The Huskers, of course, Illinois and Indiana also making the NCAA regionals. Speaking of the Huskers some more, at Big Ten Baseball, put out Gabe Swanson from Nebraska. It says he's putting up video game numbers in 8 postseason games. 515 batting average, 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 8 runs scored. He was a machine. He's killing it. It's fantastic. All right, so that is it for our Tuesday tweets. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, find me on Twitter. Post something. Follow me. I'll follow you back. It's Twitter at TalkBig10 10. Don't forget our website. You see the crawl on the bottom, our website, TalkBig10 10.com. And of course, your comments on YouTube are always welcome as well. So we got a lot going on, and we're thrilled that you're part of it. Absolutely. Many ways. Again, don't forget, reach us at Twitter at TalkBig10, the website, and on YouTube as well. Plus, if you haven't yet, subscribe real quick. Click of a button. That's all it takes. And follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Audio versions, 4 a.m. Eastern, video on YouTube, 6 a.m. Eastern, every single day. Tell your friends about us out there, especially if they're family members or friends and they're Big Ten alum. We are out here every day. Feel free to check out another episode of Locked On Big Ten. Like I mentioned yesterday, we did the one about the Super Conference, Big Ten SEC, and that's it. Nobody else. If you missed it, go back and check it out. You can find it on our website, TalkBig10 10.com as well. And after a few more of our episodes, feel free to check out our friends at Locked On Sports Today, coming at you 24/7 on the streaming channel on YouTube. We're on there from time to time. They put us on there as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoy that. I hope you enjoy this. Thank you so much. I can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. We're going to focus on Penn State tomorrow. James Franklin, the season, what they got coming up. He's always 10-2. He's going to get in the playoffs this year, right? We'll see what happens. Talk some Penn State football. Catch you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Sheeman for Lockdown Big Ten.